That's a great question. I think the factor in what we're talking about today with AI, the factor that is new to the equation is there's a little bit of a threat of AI. It adds to what's already a really hard thing to do, is build a really good culture.
Of course, within the organization, we have people who maybe belong to in our organization, we have technology and innovation team, and then we have people that come in from other teams, or whatever those teams are. And I know that you have this success with different startups. You see serial entrepreneur, and you work with different organizations, making them successful. What would be your advice? How do you create this culture where you bring people together under one umbrella and make sure that everybody sort of like get excited and not being scared of technology and start working together?
That's a great question, especially right now, because I think the factor in what we're talking about today with AI, the factor that is new to the equation is there's a little bit of a threat of AI or an opportunity of AI. And so it adds to what's already a really hard thing to do, is build a really good culture. And I think a culture, we'll go back to the word trust. I think a culture that is really good is where everyone trusts one another. And in a culture, it's different than certainly what we were just talking about. I think it has a lot more to do with making sure that you can bring your ideas to the table and they'll be considered fairly. You can collaborate and someone else isn't going to try and take credit for what the idea you had. And that you just enjoy working together and that you trust one another to get the work done, you know? And so in the companies that I've built and what we're doing now with OpsCanvas, it's always, each company's different. But I think the core elements of building culture, it starts at the top. I mean, you have to certainly take responsibility when, as the leader or the management team or whatever, and show everyone the behavior that you want them to have. But what we did a lot, and I'll go back to Signalvine, which we were talking about earlier with the text messaging business, we tried to not take ourselves too seriously. And I'm not saying that companies do, but sometimes business can get serious, right? You're trying to win the next deal or you're trying to get promoted, and it all can be very kind of anxiety driven. But the things that we did is we always tried to like create little things that people could have fun with, but also own and run with. One of the things we did was we came up with a mascot of a chicken, and it had nothing to do with Signalvine, at least from my recollection. But it became this thing where we literally had stuffed animals that were these little chicken stuffed animals. And then we had one day, like to celebrate the anniversary of the company, we literally brought a mobile zoo into the office, and like we had all these little farm animals. I mean, it was crazy, but people love that. And it was this notion of, we're going to work really hard. And I know that that's the whole thing, work hard, play hard, but it's not really, I don't think it's like playing hard. I think what it is, it's giving everyone an opportunity to contribute to the building the culture, having fun with it. And I always felt like I would not have come up with the chicken idea, but I'm so glad that someone did, because it was part of building that culture, and it shouldn't have all come from me. And I just had to recognize enough that if I embraced and supported all the crazy things that everyone wanted to do, within limits, obviously you got to think about the business. You can't blow your budget on some crazy idea, or you can't do something that's going to be unsafe or, not, show well as a business. But as long as it's fun and all that good stuff, you want everyone to be part of that, and we would do a field day where we would get all sorts of, sports equipment, and we'd go out in Alexandria by the river, and we would have competitions, 3-legged races, all that kind of stuff. And it just was the sort of thing that I never was ever involved in planning it, coming with the ideas, but I helped facilitate. I made it so that everyone felt comfortable that I would support them doing that, and that was enough.
And that's interesting. And any advice for the companies that, as we are talking today, that there are businesses that have never thought of becoming a tech company, but now you have to. If you want to be relevant moving forward for the next 5 years, 10 years, you are going to be adapting technology. You're going to be, because today everything is about personalization, right? And a lot of businesses will create their own tools. They will develop their own tools. And by doing so, one way or another, they become tech companies.
Yeah.
Even if they're not selling software, they have their own in-house customized software. And for many, this is a rocky road because they've never done it before.
Right.
And so they have people that maybe they are hiring teams, but then they also have teams that probably stayed for many years and now they're, technology company? What does it mean?
Right. Yeah. So that's interesting. I will concede the fact that my entire career, with the exception of a brief time when I was working in the world of philanthropy, my entire career has been in software and technology. So I've never had to ask that question of, are we a technology company or not? I kind of knew that we were a technology company. But I will say, I mean, when I think about that question, and so many of the customers and partners and people that I've worked with are not software companies, are not traditional technology companies. And what I would say is, and this is maybe going back a ways, but back when companies and the sales teams weren't just going and knocking on doors, but they started getting phones at their desks and they were making phone calls to try and win business. They weren't all of a sudden a phone company, right? They were still a business, but they were using the technology that was available at the time. And I think that you've seen this all along, and companies that embraced the internet early on, a lot of them, if they were the ones that embraced it earliest in their industry, they wound up having success before anyone else caught up. And by embracing technology without necessarily being a technology company, is a real differentiator, a real opportunity. Now, the biggest question I think that you might be implying when you ask that is, how do you embrace technology if you're not a technology company that knows the technology, right? That's a little bit of the challenge. And I would say, like, bring it forward to the present day with AI. There's a lot of incredible software out there and incredible tools. And there's also some not so great. And things are changing very fast. What I would say to any company that's trying to think about how do they incorporate AI into their business is, I would say, do something, because the little bit that you do, you're going to learn a lot. And I don't mean just get a ChatGPT account. We have an account where we have everyone on the team that's part of the account. And it captures institutional memory. So like when it's learning about what we do as a business, everyone else gets the advantage of that. So that's one way to take, just a chat AI system. Claude's another good one. There's a lot of good ones out there. And if you can kind of take one step where you incorporate it into the business a little bit. But I'd say I would advise that companies go one step further and try and do something and challenge themselves a little bit of using the technology in a part of their system that maybe isn't critical, but could really, someone's doing a lot of heavy lifting. And if you can kind of find a way to apply it there, it's just going to unlock ideas for the next thing. There are entire businesses now that are trying to set up their entire go-to-market. So marketing through sales and closing business, all with AI. I'm not ready to go there. There are businesses that are ready to go there. And if you talk to people in the software world, they'll say, Brian, if you don't go and start doing that now, you're going to be left behind. And And, but I got to do what's my comfort. And also I think to some degree, it's going to change so fast. So in some ways, if you're not the first one, you're going to get the benefit of the mistakes that others experience and make as they go through the process. But as an example, and this is a great little example, is my wife has a Pilates studio in Alexandria called Old Town Pilates, and they use a system. They've got a bunch of clients, and they have all the information about their clients in this software that they use. And we were talking about like understanding the clients and how they can kind of, differentiate different clients and how they communicate with them. So going back to communication and using AI. And I was like, well, I got an idea. So I'm kind of the acting CFO, so that's why I was involved in it. I went into the system, I pulled out all the raw data from the software that they were using of all the clients and information about how many classes they had gone to, when they came last, how much they've spent over the course of, being a client of the studio. I put it into ChatGPT. I didn't have any sensitive information in there, but I put the information that would help me organize it, the metadata, if you will. And that I then asked ChatGPT to tell me like 5 or 6 different things. Like, who are the clients who we should be reaching out to because they haven't been coming as often as the other clients? Mm-hmm. Who are the clients that, and I went through all this list of things, and it created within minutes a spreadsheet with every client and a checkbox about against which list they fit into. And I mean, granted, there's software out there that can do that business intelligence anyways, but this is a small Pilates studio. And it was just an example of using AI to facilitate the communication the studio is doing with the tools that were at our hands. And it was just, it opened my eyes because I hadn't really thought that, I could actually get that sort of information at my fingertips to help the studio. And it was really incredible results.